Now, from WYDC TV, this is Big Fox News at 10.
Higher holiday costs are on the way this weekend. As you know, prices are up for most consumer goods, and the holiday demand will cause additional strain. But Big Fox's Matt Kleindens tells us some grocery stores are doing all they can to keep prices competitive for you to enjoy a holiday feast.
Good evening, Ann. Inflation prices have impacted food prices at grocery stores throughout the United States. One grocery store I spoke with says they've done extensive preparations to make sure people get their holiday ham at a reasonable price.
We're seeing in every category there are some hikes.
As the Easter weekend approaches, higher prices on groceries are coming more into view. Paul Manier says inflation has driven up the cost of everyday food items.
Between dry grocery, dairy, meat, you are seeing some inflation across the board.
In order to combat sticker shock, Manier's grocery store has been working closely with its vendors to keep their prices low. Paul Manier also says the store has done extensive planning to make sure Easter dinner staples are available at a reasonable price.
Things like the asparagus, the ham, everything is very consistently priced with what it was last year, so that people can put that on their table this year. It's just a lot more planning, but you can do it if you put it together.
Manier says he and his vendors will continue working hard to ensure lower prices and hopes for prices to stabilize.
Hopefully this isn't for a long period of time, but things are changing very fast, and hopefully we see some things stabilize.
Matt Kleindens, Big Fox, WYDC in Corning.
Wegmans is being recognized as one of the best companies to work for by Fortune magazine. Out of 100 companies, Wegmans came in third place. Fortune surveyed employees on a company's trust, respect, fairness, and camaraderie. Wegmans has finished in the top 100 in all 25 years of the Fortune magazine's lists. Now to the latest in Ukraine. The Ukrainian military hits a major Russian naval asset, while Moscow steps up attacks on cities in the east. Griff Jenkins has more from Lviv, Ukraine.
The Ukrainian military celebrating a big win on Thursday. Officials say they hit and badly damaged the Russian cruiser Moskva with 2 missiles, causing serious damage to the flagship of Russia's Black Sea Fleet. Moscow claims the ship was damaged by a fire and the crew was forced to evacuate. Typically, about 500 people are on board. Experts say it's just the latest example of the Ukrainians out fighting the Russian military despite a lack of manpower and technology.
You've got soldiers with very little ammo, protective gear, yet somehow they are still winning tactically because they're defending their country.
But the situation on land is different. Russia has been intensifying its attacks on cities in Ukraine's east, with nearly a week of round-the-clock shelling laying the groundwork for a major offensive expected any day now.
Russian troops are reinforcing activities in the eastern and southern directions. They are trying to take revenge for their losses.
The Pentagon is now rushing to get more weapons to Ukraine ahead of that offensive. President Biden announcing a new $800 million military aid package on Wednesday. And while Ukraine's president continues his diplomatic blitz, both sides are acknowledging a ceasefire is unlikely at this time.
A global ceasefire
in Ukraine
doesn't seem possible. That was our appeal for humanitarian reasons, but it doesn't seem possible.
And following the Russian retreat from the Kyiv region, officials say nearly 1 million Ukrainians who fled the country have now returned. In Lviv, Ukraine, Griff Jenkins, Fox News.
Pfizer says booster doses of its COVID-19 vaccine raises antibodies against Omicron in 5 to 11-year-olds. The additional shot, given 6 months after the 2-dose primary series, led to a 6-fold increase in antibodies, according to company research. The company says it plans to submit its data to the FDA for authorization to offer booster doses to children in that age group. Pfizer's data has not been made available to outside scientists for review. The boom in pet ownership during the coronavirus pandemic has brought on a new crisis: critical caregiver burnout. Veterinarians are overworked, impacting vet care for pets, especially from the high pet care demand brought on by more pet ownership. One Oregon-based veterinarian says the pandemic pet boom also failed to create more veterinarians to keep care up. Many vets also face high student loans, high debt-to-income ratios. Twitter's biggest shareholder wants to take it private. Elon Musk offering to buy the social media company. Lauren Blanchard reports.
Elon Musk says Twitter should be a private company. He's already the largest stakeholder. Now the richest person in the world is offering to buy the platform for $43 billion.
I think this is a good offer for Twitter. I suspect the Twitter board will try to say their company's worth more.
In a filing on Wednesday, Musk offered to pay $54.20 in cash for each remaining share. It's above their current worth. In a letter to the chairman, Musk wrote, quote, "I invested in Twitter as I believe in its potential to be the platform for free speech around the globe, but that the company will neither thrive nor serve this societal imperative in its current form." Musk added, "Twitter has extraordinary potential. I will unlock it."
Elon Musk is brilliant. He's made himself a bazillionaire. He's never been involved in social media.
Twitter's board of directors meeting Thursday, confirming they had received an unsolicited, non-binding proposal.
This is a real offer, and Twitter's board should take this very seriously because they do have a fiduciary responsibility, not to the liberal echo chamber that it is, but to the shareholders.
Twitter has faced criticism for censoring some users and topics, including the former president Donald Trump. Many conservatives are applauding Musk's offer.
I think it's amazing. Anybody that wants to champion freedom of speech and give people their voices back, it is the right way to go.
Musk said this was his best and final offer. He threatened to reconsider his position as a shareholder if it was rejected. In New York, Lauren Blanchard, Fox News.
TikTok is testing another new feature for its app, this time a dislike button for comments. The company shared that it will let its users dislike single comments on posts. They said they're adding to actions users already have access to within the app, as people can dislike videos they're not interested in seeing. This time, the aim of the dislike button is to report comments they find irrelevant or inappropriate without being visible to others. TikTok says it's deleted more than 85 million videos between October and December 2021 due to violations. You may be wondering why gas prices seem high, even though the price of oil is dropping. Well, in recent House hearings, lawmakers complained about high gas prices to execs in the oil industry. The American Petroleum Institute says big oil companies own only 5% of U.S. fuel stations. The price of gas is made up of drilling, refining, and delivery costs. Local stations also raise or lower prices based on global volatile events which can impact their supply. According to AAA, the price of gas in Chemung County is $4.13 a gallon. Todd Nelson is in next with our complete forecast. Plus, Jamie Holmes joins us with more news. Stay with us.
Here's your local stock market update from Big Fox. Now, your Twin Tiers forecast from Big Fox.
Well, we've been stuck in a rainy weather pattern as we've at least seen a trace of rainfall through the last 5 days. Now, it's not equating to much. We are looking at staying under that 1/4 inch at least over the last 3 days. But what we're going to see is that we had those showers throughout the day today. Still might have some additions to that total for your Thursday. But what we're trending to see is that the gray pattern has been stuck and it's going to improve. So lots of raindrops on the Binghamton camera there, but improvements are coming with the high pressure system filling in overnight. But it is going to bring in some cooler temperatures tomorrow morning as we are expected to drop into the 30s. But the good news is that the sunshine is going to stick around early tomorrow. So we are going to see that we'll have a drier Friday due to that high pressure system building in. Now note there is going to be another cold front moving in, and it is going to keep the weekend very unsettled. We're talking potentially rain chances throughout the weekend, maybe even some times of wet snowfall mixing in. And then Sunday is going to be the coldest temperature wise before we'll make some slight improvements in the temperatures, but stay under more of a wet weather pattern when it comes to shower chances through much of next week. Now, what we'll see for your Friday, as mentioned, high pressure system in place. So out of the 30s, even into the 50s as early as 10 a.m. and then into those 60s, not only those 60s, but potentially the upper 60s. So we're looking at nearly 10 degrees above average. You'll start to see some slight increase into the cloud cover into the afternoon and evening, as that will signal some of those showers that are going to be moving across the state of New York. So rolling through forecast, we'll see the sunshine around for the first part of the day for New York. But then we increase those showers along the Great Lakes for the afternoon and evening. You'll start to see it become a little bit more widespread as we head into Saturday morning for even portions of Pennsylvania and then across the entire state of New York. And this is just Saturday morning that we're starting to see some light rainfall. We will keep those showers through the day, so accumulation is expected to be just around 1/4 inch, upwards of about 1/2 inch through even Sunday morning, where there will be some times in those higher elevations that we could have some maybe mixing occurring, as even in Elmira, lows will near that freezing mark. So we're starting off Easter on a frigid note, so any plans, make sure that you're bundling up and preparing. But the good news is we'll quiet up as we stay fairly cold, though high temperatures only into the 40s. Now, again, take advantage of your Friday. High temperatures all across the area are expected to be within those low to even upper 60s. So as mentioned, nearly 10 degrees above that average that now sits at about 58 degrees for this time of the year. So beautiful weather, a little windy at times. Note that there may be a few wind gusts out there, but we will see that as we head into your Saturday, about 58 degrees. And then we drop even another 10 degrees by Sunday with only a high of 48 degrees with times of that wintry mix mainly into the morning, but we don't drop out those chances for showers just yet. We stay under that potential both Monday and Tuesday. Temperatures make slight improvements as mentioned, but it doesn't seem like we are going to be making any skyrocketing temperatures. At least we'll be closer to what's average for this time of the year, Wednesday and Thursday.
The number of younger Americans experiencing anxiety, depression, and suicidal thoughts has been steadily increasing. But federal health officials say those disorders have only been amplified since the start of the pandemic. Now, for the first time, the nation's leading group of medical professionals is recommending special screenings to monitor for mental health issues in some children. Kevin Cork reports.
The U.S. Preventive Services Task Force, the nation's leading panel of medical specialists, issuing new guidance for doctors, recommending they screen every child 8 and above for anxiety and every child 12 and above for depression, regardless of whether or not they show symptoms of the disorder. But when it comes to examining younger kids for anxiety and depression and even implementing regular suicide screenings for children of all ages, panelists say,
we don't have a sufficient evidence base that allows us to recommend for or against screening for anxiety and depression in younger children or for suicide risk in all youth.
Suicide is the second leading cause of death for people between the ages of 10 and 24, with that age group seeing an increase in the rate of suicides jumping from 7 per 100,000 people in 2007 to roughly 11 per 100,000 people in 2018. Parents like Nicole Ball, who lost her 12-year-old daughter, Rio, to suicide, believe screenings could save lives.
We can't get lost in the what-ifs and the could've, would've, should've.
988, the 3-digit number for the National Suicide Prevention Hotline, is expected to launch this July. By the way, this comes as Congress continues working toward bipartisan bills to address spikes in mental health disorders and drug addiction fueled by the pandemic. I'm Kevin Cork, Fox News.
America's central banking system is set to make some rate hikes in hopes of cooling off inflation and consumer demand. The Federal Reserve is expected to hike short-term interest rates by 0.5 percentage point in May. Reserve Board member Christopher Waller says the economy is strong enough for it. The Fed wants to cool off consumer demand and inflation on products like technology and wheat and corn commodities. That means you'll either pay more short-term or hold off buying so that prices come back down. The May hike could be followed by more rate hikes later this year. Despite consumers and government blocking efforts, robocalls are still swamping America, but you can fight back. Americans still receive 4 billion robocalls a month. Not all are bad, like ones from your doctor. But you do have defense mechanisms at your disposal. On iPhones, go to Settings and engage Silence Unknown Callers. Mobile users have some paid options like Reverse Call Lookup and revealing caller details for a few dollars a month. Apple's App Store also has apps for blocking incoming calls. Supply chain issues are rearing their ugly head as one of President Biden's key infrastructure services slows down. Broadband internet access, one of the key parts of the Build Back Better plan, could be delayed by a number of years in remote areas. This is due to a shortage of labor, geographic obstacles, and supply issues in certain steps in the fiber optic cable network. One Vermont internet provider, which hoped to bring broadband to remote places within 5 years, says these issues may delay their rollout by another 2 to 5 years. The labor shortage is putting people's lives at risk in rural areas. In fact, the National Association of Emergency Medical Technicians says its teams are in crisis. Mills Hayes shows us how the pandemic and labor shortages are stressing EMS services and delaying care.
Ambulance services are having a hard time finding qualified staffers, and for those who rely on volunteers, it can be even tougher. Here in Mountain Lake, Minnesota, they can get anywhere from a few calls per day to a few calls per week. The closest hospital is 11 miles away, so having an ambulance is the difference between life or death. Mountain Lake, Minnesota is home to just over 2,000 people.
It's just a nice, quiet little town.
And local ambulance director Emily Kunkel is one of them.
My real job is accounting.
But their emergency medical service providers are all volunteers.
It's hard to get people to want to give up their own free time to volunteer to do something.
Alan O'Bannon has been volunteering for over 40 years.
There aren't as many jobs in town that people can just break away from.
The state of Minnesota requires them to have 2 people on call 24/7, and that's gotten tough.
Sometimes hard to fill the schedule because a lot of people don't work in town.
The National Association of Emergency Medical Technicians warns we could see a domino effect.
If the rural area starts to collapse in healthcare, which it is in certain areas, that has an effect on everywhere else in healthcare.
Dave Edgar is the assistant EMS chief in West Des Moines, Iowa, which uses employees, not volunteers. But the city of nearly 66,000 people can't find enough workers for its 7 ambulances.
Now we have 5 ambulances, which means those rural hospitals where we would go out and help transfer those patients in, we have less ability to do that. It's a recipe that's setting up to really be a collapse of the system when you can't have ambulance response for an area, or it takes 30 or 40 minutes to get an ambulance there.
The EMT Association is asking Congress to extend Medicaid and Medicare funding for ambulance services. In 2022, rural areas received about $7.5 million for recruitment, retention, and education for their ambulance services. And in 2023, they are hoping to get about $20 million. In Mountain Lake, Minnesota, Mills Hayes, Fox News.
A high school student in Orlando, Florida learned CPR and then used it to save a life hours later. Randy Hildreth talked with the student.
I don't know if I feel like a hero, but I'm glad that I used it with her because now she's alive.
When Daniel Navarro's pregnant co-worker was found unresponsive, he didn't think, he just acted.
And I started doing it not with your arms, but like with all your body.
Chest compressions for CPR, training he got just hours before at school.
By doing this, you can keep a patient alive until the ambulance crew arrives.
9th and 11th grade students in Florida are now required to learn CPR. Local first responders lead the courses.
And I was thinking if every rotation, at least 10% of these people will gain some kind of knowledge and retain so much information, it will be awesome. And on the very next day, we heard something like that. I was like, oh, wow.
Experts say the human brain can sustain up to 5 minutes without oxygen. CPR helps keep the blood flowing until medics arrive. Daniel says his coworker was dehydrated, her blood pressure dropped, and she collapsed. Every minute was crucial. Thankfully, he was in place, and she's okay.
She said, thanks, and thank you for the CPR that you gave me earlier. And I said, you're welcome. That's it.
Did you smile when you saw that message?
Yeah, of course.
And we want to leave you with a smile. You won't find this Easter egg for sale. 2 chocolate artisans from the Cadbury World Attraction in England have created an enormous creation, a creamy sculpture made up from 889 chocolate bars. It has a soft spring landscape full of small leaves, flowers, grass, and fences. 2 bunnies, an owl, and the fox inside the scene were carefully handcrafted by the chocolatiers. The impressive egg will be put on view in Cadbury World's chocolate making zone until the end of April. That does it for us. Thanks so much for watching.